Have you always wanted to play a rogue, but you like being strength-based? You like being the strong, dominant person? Then check out the Ruffian Rogue Subclass mod for Baldur's Gate 3, which we're going to go over right now. We're going to level by level, comment through on all the items you could need, so of course we start with the Rogue. Now this is where things get interesting. We have Dex saving throw proficiency, and Intelligence saving throw proficiencies, as well as simple weapon, hand crossbow, longsword, rapier, short sword, light armor proficiencies. Okay, so there's two ways you can do this. You can use a mace that's going to set your strength to 18, and then you can have this setup here, where you'd have 8 strength, 16 dexterity, 16 constitution, 14 intelligence, 10 wisdom, and 10 charisma. Because I'm not using that mace, we are actually going to go with this setup. 16 strength, 14 dexterity, 16 constitution, 10 intelligence, 10 wisdom, and 8 charisma. For your proficiencies, take whatever fits your roleplay, and the same extends to your expertise. Rogue level 2 brings our cunning action, so as a bonus action we can hide, dash, and disengage. Rogue level 3 is where we get to pick our specialisation, and for this one, as I said, we are going with the Ruffian subclass. So, often employed as hired muscle for organisations that don't shy away from force, ruffians can be found in almost any village, city or town where crime exists. So, we gain Enforcer. This means that our sneak attacks can work with any weapon that isn't two-handed or unarmed attacks, so long as you're proficient with the weapon. Your unarmed attacks deal 1 to 4 bludgeoning damage. While armoured, you can use your constitution instead of your dexterity to calculate your armour class, hence why our constitution is higher than our dex. We gain Shakedown, so when you make an athletics or intimidation check, you cannot roll lower than an 8. Additionally, you can use your strength in place of charisma for intimidation checks, really useful for outsider combat. And of course our sneak attack Ruffian, meaning as long as it's not a two-handed weapon, we can do sneak attack with it. Rogue level 4 brings our first feat, and for this one we're going to take our ability improvement and bump strength to 18. If you are leaving this with your dex highest and using the, I think it's a handmaiden mace that sets your strength to 18, then take your dex from 16 to 18. Rogue level 5 brings uncanny dodge, meaning when an attack would hit us, we can take half the usual damage. Rogue level 6 brings another expertise, and again choose whatever fits your roleplay here. Rogue level 7 brings evasion. So when a spell or effect would deal half damage on a successful dex saving throw, it deals no damage if you succeed and only half if you fail. At Rogue level 8 we get to pick up our second feat, so for this one we're going to max out our strength at 20. Again, if you're using the mace and your dex is at 18, set your dex to 20. Rogue level 9 brings Nerves of Steel. So fear is a weapon that can be used against cowards and the weak-willed, and you're not so easily intimidated. We're now immune to being frightened, which is awesome. And we gain Imposing Glance as a bonus action. Now these do have charges, so you've only got a limited amount, but essentially you can do this to try and frighten an enemy on your next turn, and then you have advantage on the first attack roll you make against them. The number of Imposing Glance charges is equal to your strength modifier, and they recharge on a short rest. So the more strength you have, the more charges you have, and you can still easily regain all of these. A Rogue level 10 brings another feat, and for this one we're going to come all the way to the bottom and take Savage Attacker, because we are going to be rolling a bunch of damage dice thanks to sneak attack. Rogue level 11 brings Reliable Talent, meaning when you make an ability check with a skill you're proficient with, the lowest you can roll on the die is a 10. Would be helpful if I could read today. Rogue level 12 brings our final feat, and for this one we are going to be taking Alert to boost ourselves up the turn order and ensure we can't be surprised. Okay, when it comes to equipment, we've got a few options for armour and weapons, so let's go over them, and we start with the Mask of Soul Perception for the +2 bonus to attack rolls, initiative and perception checks. For a cloak, I really like the Devoration Cloak. When you poison a foe, you heal yourself for 1d4 hit points. The Evasive Shoes for +1 to acrobatics and armour class. For armour, I like the Elegant Studded Leather for a +2 bonus to initiative rolls, advantage on stealth checks and a use of shield. However, if you wanted to, you could also take the Bowlist Armour, so enemies within 3 meters become vulnerable to piercing damage unless they're immune to it. But our weapon doesn't use piercing damage, unfortunately, so this would only really benefit other characters. But again, pick and choose what you want here. For gloves, the Helldust Gloves for 1 to 6 fire damage on our weapon attacks, or 1 to 6 on our unarmed attacks if that's the route you choose to go. Now, if you want to use these, you could also take the Stalker Gloves that give you a 1 to 4 force damage on your sneak attacks. The Caustic Band for 2 acid damage. The Shifting Corpus Ring for use of invisibility and blur. The Amulet of Baal, so on a hit will inflict bleeding upon targets at maximum hit points. And then for a weapon, we have the Devotee's Mace here. Now, this is a high damage dealer and it also has a healing incense aura, but other options you could go with would be, if I get all the way to the end, the Adamantine Mace. So as you can see, huge damage here, and it ignores bludgeoning resistance. There is the Blood of Lathander, you'll know this pretty well, and it will give you Sunbeam. You could go with the Flail of Ages and switch your damage type, or the Infernal Mace. On a hit, the affected entity deals an additional 3 poison damage and possibly poisons its target. This ties very nicely in with the Cloak. Now, if you didn't want to use this cloak, you could also take like the Cloak of Displacement and then use the Devotee's Mace. Lots of really good options here. You can really play around with this. The only downside is, because we are strength based, we can only use short bows, but our dex isn't really that good enough to use a short bow. Ideally you want to be able to use the Titan string bow, but we don't have proficiency. So you do have other limited sort of situations with this. But with that all being said, let's go find some combat and check this out. Okay, you can see we're in the combat and we're top of the turn order, so let's get this going. And we'll start with a big sneak attack on the enemy here with our mace. And there you go, you see we caused the bleeding, we got the acid, fire, normal bludgeoning, so much good stuff here. And we can use one of our imposing glance charges to scare Skeeve here. And there you go, not only is he frightened, it now means on our next turn we have advantage on our attack against him. You see the frightened enemy there did nothing. And then it's back to our turn, and again we can just come in here and we can try and take some enemies out. Now if we look at our base damage without a sneak attack, by just coming around here, it's still pretty hefty. But obviously the sneak attack does add a lot of nice damage dice. And of course from there, if we want to, impose a glance, and we can frighten the barbarian. And this really is the gist of the build. We just run in, we sneak attack with our heavy weapons. So once again we'll do Skeeve, get that bleed, and we can, if we want to, if we're using this one, we can do a healing instance, we can do an imposing glance again, so we can frighten Runt here. You can just spread around the damage, and again if you use the poison mace you can spread your poison alongside your bleed. All sorts of awesome stuff. So let's sneak attack unarmed on the barbarian, and you see we get extra necrotic damage thanks to the gloves. So you do get more damage mileage out of the mace, but there's a lot of possibility for like multi-classing with like the barbarian, or maybe even a fighter. And then it really is just a case of running around and ending the fight. So again we'll do a sneak attack with our Ruffian, land a big amount of damage, and then what we can do is we can start closing down the distance over here, and let's frighten, and it'll let me pick it. Why won't you select anything? There we go, we'll frighten him again. And again we come in here, we get our sneak attack, land some hefty damage, and chase down the other enemies. And with cunning action dash, we can move even further, so you can really utilise both your actions. And with one enemy remaining, let's just take them out. And end the fight now they've stopped being invisible. So that is the Ruffian modded subclass for Baldur's Gate. It's really awesome. Obviously you do get a little bit more mileage personally, I think, being dex based, but being strength based, being able to throw around a mace or a longsword or just a flail, any sort of like heavy item like that, and deal mass damage is incredible. So we hope you've enjoyed this build. If you have, please drop the video a like and check the mod out. If you're not already, please subscribe to the channel as well. I've got more guides to Baldur's Gate, Path of Exile, Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, Elden Ring, Dragon Age, basically all the amazing RPGs you could ever need. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.